Have you ever wondered what would happen if you discovered a playlist that never ends, where each song reveals the darkest secrets of your own existence? Imagine putting on your headphones and letting yourself be carried away by hypnotic melodies that, instead of entertaining you, unveil fragments of your past lives. This is the unsettling premise that envelopes us today. A story where music becomes the echo of what we no longer are, and the past comes back to claim us in ways we could never have imagined. I invite you to immerse yourself in this atmosphere of mystery and terror that, although it seems pulled from a novel, is just a click away in the depths of the web. The story begins with a young man named Max, a music lover who, like many, sought an escape from the daily hustle through streaming platforms. One lonely night, he stumbled upon a mysterious playlist titled The Infinite Playlist. Curious, he decided to give it a try, ignoring the warnings from unknown sources. When he hit play, he found himself immersed in an auditory experience unlike any other. The first song started soft, melodic, and as he allowed himself to be swept away by its notes, he felt a strange connection. It was as if the lyrics resonated within him, touching fibers he didn't even know existed. But as the playlist continued, the atmosphere became unsettling. Instead of feeling relaxed, Max felt a chill creep down his spine. The songs seemed to tell stories of pain and suffering, events he had not lived but felt as if they were his own. With every note, he glimpsed echoes of tragic deaths, horrible accidents, and the sense of having been there in those terrible moments. How could a simple playlist have such power over his emotions? It was then that he realized that indeed, each song was connected to a part of his soul, a resonance of his past lives that were trying to communicate with him, bringing to light traumas he had either forgotten or never truly lived consciously. Disconcerted, Max felt compelled to investigate further. He searched online, and his findings became even more disturbing. The Infinite Playlist was not just a simple collection of songs. There were rumors that those who listened began to lose their sanity, that their lives unraveled as dark fragments of their history surfaced. Listeners reported having terrifying visions of their own deaths, moments when they felt the icy breath of death closing in on them, just as described in the song lyrics. The playlist had gone viral in certain dark corners of the web, where it was said to contain clues about how each listener had died in past lives. Some even claimed they could hear their own voices in the songs, muffled whispers calling for their attention, leading them to a place where time and space had no meaning. The more Max listened, the more he felt trapped in a vicious cycle, one he could not escape. The music consumed him, and with each track, he noticed how his reality began to distort. In his desperation, Max decided to take a closer look at the playlist. The lyrics of one particular song, a dark ballad titled The Last Whisper, led him to a desolate landscape in his mind. In his visions, he saw himself in a shadowy alley, pursued by figures that seemed intent on catching him. He could hear the echo of his own breath, ragged with panic. Just when it seemed the shadows were about to catch him, a soft voice emerged from the melody, telling him he must confront his fears to free himself from his past. Desperate for answers, Max dedicated himself to understanding the origin of the playlist. His clues led him to forums and blogs that spoke of an ancient artifact, a music player that had belonged to a well-known medium, someone who had been in contact with the beyond. It was said that the device was cursed, possessing the ability to connect you with your past lives through music. Max began to doubt himself, wondering if he should continue listening or if he was simply going insane. However, each time he tried to walk away, something within him compelled him to return to that endless playlist. It was like a siren song drawing him toward inevitability. When he finally made the decision to stop listening, he encountered an even more chilling reality. His world began to crumble around him. Objects in his home seemed to vibrate to the rhythm of a song that only he could hear. At night, shadows danced in the corners, barely audible whispers filled the air, and most disturbingly, he began receiving subliminal messages through the melodies playing in the playlist. Every song revealed small truths about his existence, truths he felt should remain buried. The line between reality and fiction grew increasingly blurred. His friends began to distance themselves. His family looked at him with concern, and he, engulfed in his anguish, sought answers in the echoes of his own life. He realized that with every song he listened to, a fragment of his soul detached, a piece he could not reclaim. The melodies bound him to his past, not only to his happy experiences, but also to the dark secrets he had hidden away from his memory. Ultimately, after days of sleeplessness and torment, Max decided to face his fear. He sat in his room, the dim light barely illuminating his face, and with determination, he hit play again. The first notes resonated like a lament in his soul, weaving an invisible web that held him captive. But this time, he was not alone. He was determined to uncover the truth hidden within those melodies. The playlist continued, each song a portal to another time, another place, a life he had lived but could not remember. The images flowed like a torrent. He saw moments of joy and despair, lost loves and deep betrayals. Amidst it all, a shadow began to appear more frequently. It was a figure lurking, a sinister reminder that he must confront his fate. With each chord, the figure became more tangible, until finally, in a song that seemed the darkest, Max understood what he had to do. If he wanted to break free from the endless song, he had to confront that shadow. With great courage, he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let the music carry him, ready to face his own past. The final song resonated in his mind like a battle cry. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a place that felt both familiar and strange. It was the alley he had seen in his visions, but now it was lit by an unsettling light. The shadow stood before him, and though fear enveloped him, he knew he had to speak. "Who are you? Why do you chase me?" Max asked, his voice trembling. The shadow smiled, and though it had no defined features, he felt it laughing at his fear. "I am the echo of your choices, what you chose to forget," it replied in an ethereal voice that resonated deep within him. It was the weight of his own decisions, the paths he had taken. Max realized he could not escape who he had been. He had to reconcile with all his past lives to break the cycle. As the music reached its climax, Max felt transported, and in an instant, he saw himself in a different place. There, amid the shadows of the past, he understood that each death, each story of suffering, was merely a lesson he needed to learn. The shadow began to fade, along with the melodies that had once tormented him. Finally, when everything calmed down, he could hear a silence he had never experienced, a silence filled with peace and liberation. Max had faced his fears, understood that music, at times, is not just a pleasure but a journey deep into our psyche. When he emerged from the trance, he realized he had gained something invaluable, a connection to his true self, a freedom he had never imagined. As he looked at the screen of his device, the playlist had disappeared, leaving an echo in his heart. If you ever happen to find a playlist like Max's, be careful. Music can contain much more than it appears. I invite you to leave a like if you enjoyed this story, and don't forget to follow my channel for more chilling tales. Tell me in the comments what you thought of this experience, and if you have ever felt that music speaks for you. See you in the next story.